to Sparks of Marketing podcast. And if you're watching in the group, welcome back. I'm so glad that you are here to join me with my guest, Allison Puryear, who is so kind enough to join me here today. And I'm excited to be talking with her. And you guys are going to learn so much from Allison. So Allison is with Abundance Practice Building. She's a therapist who burned out on agency work and then built her successful private practices in 3 wildly different markets. After her caseload grew faster in each saturated market, she realized that practice building is not rocket science when you have clarity, confidence, and a figured out formula. So she still sees clients, right, Allison?
I do.
Yeah.
I can't quit it.
And she started Abundance Practice Building to help other therapists build their own full and happy private practices, because a happy therapist is a better therapist, y'all. Okay, Allison is in Asheville now, and she adds the y'all, which is fun. So hi, Allison. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, we've talked in the past and collaborated a little bit. I think it started when I was stalking you on Instagram. Because Allison is just fun to watch. And also, you really give so much advice that is outside of the box of what I do, which is content marketing for clinicians. And I don't like to, pretend to be a clinician when I'm not. So
that's good. I think that's illegal.
Yeah. Well, there's that too. I don't mean the advice part about providing therapy, but the part about how to build a practice. So I talk a lot about the content marketing that supports building a practice, but there's a lot that's outside of that it takes, obviously. And so whenever people ask me about that, I tell them, you got to follow Allison on Instagram, especially. And I'm sure you're in other places. So we'll share how to find you in the end. And also I'll put it in the comments and the show notes, but yeah, I'm really excited to bring you into my audience. If they're not already following you, they should.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just talk about the journey. And you talk about this a lot of when therapists start out, or clinicians in general, when you start out and you're so excited, right? There's like that bubble of excitement. And then you wait for the phone to ring. And there's just this like frustrating lull. And then eventually, hopefully you get to the point where it is ringing and you even get to full. So I know you talk about that journey a lot and it's really common, but I also know from the people who talk to me that they feel like they're the only ones having that experience.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And thanks for asking about this, because I'm pretty passionate about being really forthright about this as a part of everybody's journey. I think that it's probably not the best marketing, to be honest with you, for me to be like, yeah, there's this part that's going to suck so hard and you're going to feel like a loser and you're failing, but you're not. It would be a much more effective marketing strategy, probably to be like, yeah, work with me and you'll build like that. But that's not the reality, no matter who you work with. So every single one of us is going to have a moment or months of feeling like, I have put in all this work and I really believed in myself there for a minute and I was a fool. And that is a part of the process. I've helped thousands of therapists build. I guarantee you it's part of everybody's process. There are maybe a couple people who took all their clients from group practice, went into solo practice with all those same clients and didn't have to initially build. But as those clients graduate from therapy, they're going to be in that spot of like, oh God, I don't know how to refill this. So know that if you're in that place, you're in the right place. It's not a sign you're doing things you might be doing things wrong. If you're following best practices, if you're listening to Wendy, you'll be fine. But if you feel like, you're doing things according to what you've been told is best practices, then you're gonna get full. You're just in this weird, awkward space for a little while. It's like middle school. Those first few months of practice are like middle school.
That's so true. Because social media can feel like middle school also until you kind of find your tribe on there and then you start to feel like the power of it, but it can feel like middle school when you're connecting with the wrong people. So I love that you compare that beginning like insecurity that you feel in middle school. And I have a 9th grader my third teen is now ninth grader. So I would say that even ninth grade is a lot like that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, if you're counting my life, we're going into like age 24, maybe. Like it's just all awkward.
Yeah. And I can't remember. I think that you've talked about this, and I've certainly talked about this too, that there are people where you'll see that, they just got full right away. Like, how long did it take you until you got full? And the truth is that when the people that do that quickly, more often than not, they started a side hustle. They were able to take people with them. There was some sort of non-compete. And so when they say that I got full in 2 months, 3 months, whatever, that really short amount of time, a lot of times it's because day one wasn't really day one.
Right. It's like they're the Kylie Jenner self-made billionaires, right? Like there was something that accelerated that for them. Yeah, there are some people who do get full organically, but it's rare to be full in a matter of months, like matter of like 2 or 3 months. So at least in the therapy world. So if you're feeling like you're behind because a friend of a friend got full in 3 months, first of all, also people lie. And that's something to also consider. Yes, even therapists lie. So take some of what you hear about what your supposed objective trajectory is, and like just take a breath and take a beat and know that if you're doing best practices, you will get full. So,
Right. Okay. So now that we gave the pep talk, let's talk about a little bit about some of the practical steps that people should take in their marketing a new practice. So I see people in 2 stages. One is a new practice, you hung out your shingle, like what else do you need to do? Or what do you need to do to hang out that virtual shingle these days? And then also I see people where they need to grow. So either, it just got quiet in their practice, or they're trying to add a clinician and they need to help that person bring in more people. So what are the practical steps that you recommend to people?
Yeah. I mean, the very first thing people absolutely need to do is be niched. And this is for anybody. Like my husband has a psychiatric practice, right? And he's like, I don't need to niche. Like I'm like niched within the medical field. Like psychiatry is its own little niche. And I'm like, I'm telling you, you need to niche. Yeah, he got full in like 14 seconds because there aren't enough psych prescribers in the world. But guess who also got pretty burned out? So niching is not just beneficial for filling your practice really quickly. It's also extraordinarily beneficial for preventing burnout. So take care of yourself and take care of your clients by seeing the ones you do great work with. And that clarity, I was just talking with a student actually a couple of hours ago, and she's like, when I first heard about niching and I heard you talk about niching, it sounded so easy. And I was like, okay, I'll just niche. But it's hard. It's a process for most people. And there's a lot of second guessing. Basically, what we're saying is as you go into your practice, there's a lot of second guessing through every single stage, which is great for personal development. But if you're not niching, it's so much harder to market. And that's where you end up with, like, you see people's really bland, boring social content, right? It's usually because they're not niched. So if you're niched, you can come up with really like powerful, poppy, like, oh, did she just say that kind of things specific to what your ideal client cares about, instead of like 5 tips to beat back anxiety, which is just like if it's going to be on HuffPo, I don't want to read it. Like if it's like that generic, like if I'm on social and I'm looking at a therapist and I'm trying to decide if I want to see him, I want to see my pain reflected back to me. So I know they know what they're talking about and I know they know how to help me.
Right. That's such great advice. And also it is really hard to figure out where you want to niche, just because it feels like this big commitment, but it's really a little bit like dating. Like you try it out. You are not marrying into this.
Yes.
You own your own business. Switch it up.
Switch it up. It's like you will have already learned from your first niche, if you decide to switch, what marketing works for you, what you enjoy, how to do it effectively. So I think sometimes people think, oh my God, I cannot go back and like rebuild all of that. I can't like do all that other work again. I just did it. But you're like up 3 rungs on that ladder. You already know how to do it faster. You know how to do it better. The learning curve is so much less intense. So just sit down, like put your butt in the chair and like make yourself write the copy. And you'll find if it's something you're niching to that you're really passionate about, it just flows out of you. It's so much easier than trying to make something your niche that you don't want to be your niche.
Right, right. And I think, like sometimes you don't really know what your passion is at first, and you just have to talk to a ton of people and try things out. And you get there with time. Like it doesn't have to be that you build everything overnight. It takes years,
Yeah.
and you
And
learn.
there are some pros to it too. Like if you're somebody who networks and you change your niche, it gives you an excuse to reach back out to people you've networked with before. And so then you're top of mind to them again and new to mind for them for this new client population. So
Right.
there are some benefits that help get you full if you're not already full. That all that hard work of rebranding or rewriting your copy or what have you, like it ends up being so worth it. Not just for your own peace of mind, enjoying your job, but also you get full.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about referrals. What are some of the best ways that you recommend people starting out get referrals other than it just, stalking people? Or maybe that is your best,
Yeah. I mean, I do
recommend?
enjoy people. No, I mean, I love networking. And I think one way that you can leverage networking online is if I network with somebody, I'm probably going to start following them on Instagram right before or right after. Right. So you can also build, like you and I built a relationship across Instagram. So there are ways to network with people using social platforms. It doesn't just have to be like coffee at your local coffee shop because it's not always possible. And so if you are getting to know people and developing relationships, that's always going to help your business, period. And people hear networking, they think it's like this gross, scuzzy thing. It's literally developing relationships. Like we're all amazing at that. If you're a clinician, you're great at developing relationships. You probably naturally are, and you've been trained on top of that. So give that a shot where you're just getting to know people. You're not pitching. You're not hard selling. You're not even bragging. Like you're really just getting to know another human person.
Right. So you're talking about, following someone on Instagram who is a potential referral source, and then just having conversations over direct messages, supporting them in their content, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And so if it's like somebody in your niche, so I'm an eating disorder therapist, right? If I'm networking with a fellow eating disorder therapist, we can end up resharing each other's content. We'll comment on each other's content. I'm also really clear, like they're aligned with my value system and the way that I work with people. I'm aligned with them. So it makes it easier because you can basically have this like clinical conversation through memes and posts that allows you to see whether or not it's somebody you would trust your clients with and vice versa. So, so there's that aspect of it. If it's somebody outside of your niche, most people don't know how to work with folks with eating disorders. And that is like my cup of tea. I love it. And so I have the opportunity, I'm not doing this from my practice on Instagram. Sometimes I'll sneak it in there for abundance, but I have the opportunity to challenge some of the things that just the average person believes to be true about body or food that I know because of my training and expertise is not the truth. So I can challenge diet culture. I can challenge fat phobia in a way that helps my potential referrers know and understand how I see things. And it also educates them. So I have a lot of people who I follow that specialize in things I know nothing about or use modalities I know nothing about. And so I get to be educated. And as they post, they're top of mind. So when I get a call and I'm full, so I need to refer them out, if they're in my state, I can send them their way, which is awesome.
Right. And we're talking about Instagram, but the same holds true on LinkedIn. If your audience, if your fellow clinicians are there. So it depends on where you're at. There definitely are therapists on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
There aren't as many as on Instagram, but it depends on what your specialty is. And so the same kind of just supporting one another's content and
Mhm.
getting in the direct messages to move that relationship forward before you say, hey, I'm here, I'm new, I've opened up a practice, here's who I serve, let me know if I could help
Yeah. Yeah.
you. Yeah, that's really great advice. So that kind of comes into play. Well, if you want to use social for referrals, which I think is a great way to be using social media, because it's not like your clients are going to, oh yeah, I have an eating disorder, like
Right.
in the comments. That's
Uh-huh.
not happening. But so obviously you've got to be on social media. So can
Mhm.
we talk a bit about, that feeling of not wanting to put yourself out there, and what are some of the benefits for doing so?
Well, I think if somebody really doesn't want to be on social, they shouldn't, because they're just going to screw it up. Right. And then they're going to feel shame and they're going to feel like what they're doing isn't working. So if you feel that way, but you do want to have a social audience, I would outsource, which can be hard, especially in our specialties, because like most social media managers can't say the things about eating disorders that I'm going to say. But I don't want anybody to feel like they can't succeed if they're not on social, if they're like, my 70-year-old mom who is like, will respond to somebody's post in her, like, how are you doing thing on Facebook. Right. Um, which is fine. So I think social can be so powerful, and it is an amazing tool. Um, and it is a shovel. And if you would rather just use a trowel, use a trowel. The shovel might get you there faster. So, I'm very much like choose your own adventure with the marketing strategies you choose. But I think that even those of us who really like social, like I really like social, I will still hit that part of like, oh, I don't want to post today. And the way that I combat that, and the way that I am exceedingly consistent, is a batch. Like I've literally written all of my content through the year, and we're recording this at the beginning of October. So all of 2021 is done. We just have to post it, which is amazing for me, because then I don't worry about it. And I just sit down and I get cozy and I write content. And then when we're doing the video part of the content, I've got one of my staff members, sometimes two of my staff members, and me, and we just have a blast doing it, because I would so much rather have fun on social than it be this like drudgery. So I think batching and finding a way to make it fun and playful can be really helpful. We're not always talking about fun and playful things, right? Like I'm not going to be like, I specialize in childhood sexual abuse, let's laugh about it. Like it's not that, but it is maybe finding some ways to make light of kids stuff, because kids are funny and amazing. It might be pulling in referrals or parents who are following you, whose kids are in that situation, and giving helpful tips, and coming from like your therapist self, your empathetic self. You're not doing therapy. We all know that. But your empathetic therapist self, and to like talk to the parents about like, yeah, your kid is having fits in ways that they've never had fits before. And that can be so overwhelming. And while you probably shouldn't just lock yourself in the bathroom and not respond to them, here are some other tips. So you can bring some levity to a social platform, no matter your niche. Always be conscious of not shaming or making fun of anybody, obviously. But if you're on a social platform and you're scrolling, you're expecting levity, you're expecting frankness, maybe depending on your feed. Mine's very frank. What you're not wanting is boring. Nobody ever wants boring. So bring something interesting to it that your ideal client, your one niche, like ideal client, actually cares about.
Right. And that definitely takes some time. And I've been following you for a year, and I've seen you grow so much and I don't mean numbers. I'm not like tracking your numbers,
Right.
but I've seen you grow a lot. And just even as someone who, been on it for a long time, but just in this last year, I've seen you grow from daily, you still do these Ask Allison videos, which I'm sure people find super helpful because you're answering their questions. And I always recommend going with FAQs for a great source of content. So you went from daily Ask Allisons to like multiple posts with reels and all that. So I've seen you yourself grow. So could you talk a little bit about how that journey for you, like, kind of where it started and where you've gotten now, where you're doing fun reels and you've got these wacky wigs on and your audience can tell you're having fun. So and I obviously know that you have more support now, so that helps too. But what's that journey looked like for you?
So at first I was like, oh yeah, like Instagram, I'll like post a thing here and there. I have most of my audience is on Facebook. I like just was on Facebook so much more because I have Facebook groups and my page and all that. And then the pandemic hit and I was in just all the racial inequities and everything going on. I was so sick of people fighting on Facebook and spending like 12-hour days managing a Facebook group when things hit the fan. And so I started leaning more into Instagram because it just felt lighter to me and I felt less responsible for everyone and everything. I'd been posting the Ask Allisons on there. It's sponsored content. So it's like I was always good and consistent about doing it because I was getting paid to create it. But I would say having help. So my integrator in my business helps me a lot with this stuff. Like I don't load all of it and that kind of thing. Like I write all the content and it's obviously me in the videos and stuff, but just those little nitpicky things that take a tiny bit of time, but add up. She handles that. And I think I was having a conversation with somebody and they were like, well, yeah, reels. I was like, oh, reels really intimidates me. Like, I don't know. It's like that TikTok thing. I'm officially too old for that. So there's no way. And she was like, well, the trick with reels is you need to be consistent, but they don't all have to be great. And I was like, everything has to be great. Like, I don't understand the words coming out of your mouth. How do we do this? And it was giving up perfectionism, honestly, that brought me to a much more comfortable place and a goofy place. I'm a really goofy person. And just being like, you know what, this can be like, I've got a series called Therapists and Therapy that is like fun and silly because I just realized what nightmare clients we are sometimes. And then I have a series I'm about to start because I talk about being like a private practice stage mom and I'm getting like a Karen wig for that. And I'm going to like do that. And I can give little tips along the way with this goofy presentation that stick in people's minds so they actually remember it and then it benefits their practice. Whether or not they ever become a paying client, like I want people to have amazing practices that they're excited about. I want their clients getting great care. And sure, yeah, I'd love for people to join my programs. But if they get all they need from my free content, cool. So I like that I can be myself and really step into like my goofy self instead of trying to be like my Ask Allisons are exceedingly more like professional. Let me answer your question in this very like, I know what I'm talking about way. I like that I get to show the side of me that is less straight-laced, I guess. Yeah. And I mean, I always felt like I've been myself in my business, but this is just like a part of myself that I wasn't always showing. So it's fun to do it. And I genuinely like look forward to our recording days. I enjoy writing the content. I get ideas all the time. I love it. So,
well, it's been really fun to watch. And
thank you.
You're really generous with the information that you give away, which is why I send so many people your way. And just as a side, if I could plug, I have a 5-day Reels challenge for clinicians, and I have at least one of your Reels in it, if not more, because just to show you it, you know, it's a short little commercial for your practice, you know, or it's just a fun way to have people get to know you, and you don't have to dance. It doesn't have to be TikTok. You don't have to put on a wig like Allison does.
You can be serious if you're a serious person.
You could,
Yeah.
you could, but there's just all sorts of ways to have fun with it, which, your audience can really tell that you're doing. So
yeah.
Tell everyone where they can find you, because I know that people will want to follow you for more and check out your free content and also your group to help therapists grow their practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got my Instagram is abundance_practice_building. Was that regrettable? Yes. It's underscore. Who says that? So there's that. You can also find me on Facebook if you search for Abundance Practice Building. And what else? Oh yeah, I have websites. abundanceparty.com and abundancepracticebuilding.com. We've got a YouTube channel, like most of the socials that aren't Twitter we're on. So you can find us there and follow, and definitely say hey, because I love chatting with people.
Yeah, you are all over the place. So definitely follow Allison, and I will put that in the comments and in the show notes. And I really appreciate your time. I know that you are super busy and it's always fun talking to you. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.